It's so amazing to be here. I was thinking before joining all of you in that beautiful space outside in the sun. I was thinking about the neighborhood I grew up in and how thinking back then about being in a castle and reading art that I made to people in Italy was just like not a thing. You know, it was just like not a thing, not a reality. So it's really special. So I want to thank Civitella and everyone involved in making this a real thing. It is so fucking weird, I can tell you. So I wanted to share with you work that I've been writing here. And it's two things. One is a first endeavor into memoir, into prose, a book called Note, Thoughts on Suicide, about my older brother's death about 10 years ago. And then the others are poems that'll be in a new book titled Wonderland. So I'm just going to read like the opening 2.25 pages from this memoir, and then I'll move on to, I think, like 6 poems. And this little thing keeps traveling down my face, and so I hope you can all hear me no matter where it goes on my face. That sounds like something that would be in one of my poems. So this is from Note. I'm not sure how to begin, how to start talking about what in any light is really a story about an ending. And not even that. I don't believe my older brother's suicide is a story at all. I don't believe it has a narrative, an arc one can follow. It has no hero and no villain. I don't even believe it has any victims. In some way, when I think about his suicide, I think about green grass, the sound of birds, trees gleaming after a night of rain. I think of a pond with wind, how those worlds sort of shine in the dampness, and there is a damp calm that feels good. It is a kind of presence, but particular, and one that never goes away or changes into something else. I know it might be helpful to begin with his childhood, or even my own, to tell you what hospital he was born in and on what day. Maybe I would get lucky and it would turn out that his body, once discovered by our older sister, was then driven in an ambulance, a quiet ambulance, with no lights flashing and no sirens and no need to run stop signs or traffic lights. That his body would be casually driven to that very same hospital. That while he was born on one of the top wings of the hospital, he was now being interned in the basement. But that's not what happened. There are no through lines here, none that I can recall for you. His death seems everywhere at once to me. How can I explain this to you? His death does not look like a shooting star, but like a dark sky full of billions of stars. I find it even difficult to write about it on a page, as this page seems to make too much sense with its 4 walls and perfect lines, too much promise of order and memory within its borders and font choices. Really, I wish I could tell a story full of narrative and characters, a story that has a beginning and an end that would be impossible for me. Memory is fascinating. It's so incredibly palatable, and in that way, I think it is one of the few mystical expressions the human animal has, though we take it for granted, we make it secular, a way to pass on information. I'm always drawn to people with good memories, always attracted to people who, like my friend Doug, when telling childhood stories, they can recall both the first and last names of classmates, times and dates, the scores of ball games, the titles of songs. To me, that seems like magic. I could tell you how the light looked washing across the chalkboard in second grade when my friend Keegan, whose last name I can't remember, returned to school after going through chemo, and how his face seemed weirdly swollen. And seeing him, I fainted. But I can't tell you if it was spring or fall. I can't tell you his last name or the name of our teacher. I can tell you I was reading a book called The Indian in the Cupboard, but I can't tell you how the book begins or ends. It seems like my whole life has been a kind of emotional emergency that makes for a brain that only takes in the minimum critical information, just enough to survive. People's first names, but only while I'm in their presence, and even then I have to ask over and over. Parties are the worst, and mnemonic devices fail me. Of course, I always knew my older brother's name. I knew the sound it made when I said it. Darren. Darren is coming over. Darren is on the phone. I knew that it was an I and not an E when I wrote it down in a letter, Dear Darren. But after he died, after he committed suicide, I have felt moments of deep anxiety about how to spell his name. Some kind of suffocating insecurity, some kind of strange emotional second-guessing overcomes me, and I become really nervous about writing it down. If I write it down incorrectly, if I misspell my dead brother's name, if I get it wrong, I'm terrified it will mean something. It will mean that my experience with him and his death will be a sham, will be empty and pretend in some way, a scam or a fake, as if misspelling means I have not earned my grief, that I don't deserve to miss him or love him. It would also mean that through the misspelling, I will have lost him completely and in whole, and then he would really be gone forever. But also, and perhaps in the most devastating way, that he would never have had existed in the first place. Okay, so that's the beginning of what might be some prose. We'll see. And then our thing. And you're still hearing me okay? Great. So these 6 poems come from this book that I'm working on called Wonderland. It deals with family memory. It deals with neighborhood memory. It also at its core deals with something that I feel very strongly about with poetry, which is in life, 2 experiences that we constantly have over and over again if we live long enough that kind of mark important moments in our lives are a deeply felt grief and adult erotic love. The 2 of them are bedfellows and similar in that, for me at least, and I think probably for you, they destroy language. That is to say, when we experience them, we have a difficult time talking about what we are experiencing. And it's my belief, probably bigoted belief, that poetry is the genre in which we can most readily pick up the pieces and create something that actually expresses what it is we've experienced with love or grief. So 6 poems. And we'll begin with a burial, and we'll end with love. Burial. The night my family signed the papers that would allow my brother's body to be cremated, to be transformed into another part of being, my father is sitting alone on the couch. He could be sitting in a train station, in which case he could be anybody. I haven't seen him for so long, he seems very much like a person with an interesting face. A person I would not be afraid of in the dark. The rest of the family is drinking and crying. I want to go to my father and put my arms around him the way you would a child who was lost. There, you would say, it's okay. Where are your mommy and daddy, you would ask, and then go find them so you could give the child back to happiness. When I do sit next to my father, I want him to look at me. I want to see if his eyes are like my eyes. I want to see the mouth that once sucked my mother's breast. I want to nurse him, to nurse the loneliness out of him. I'm sorry. I'm sorry your son is dead, is what I find myself saying. And he says, it's so weird not having a son anymore. We are both looking at the ground, where all human beings come from, and where all human beings go. Yes, I say, and I can feel my breast leaking. Yes, there, because it's true. His son had died. His son was gone forever. The order of things. Now, when I think of the second grade, I think about fall leaves, black oaks, and urine. I think about being caught in the bathroom at school, swinging from the bar above the door to the stall, and how I was dragged out by my arm, and how it felt like my arm was an avocado pit someone had stabbed with a knife to remove the thing, the soul from its body, and made to stand before each of my teachers and tell them I couldn't go to the bathroom by myself. Tell them you don't know how, said God's adult, a nun who found me, who now leads me to each classroom like following the stations of the cross, and at each station looking up into the confused face of the teacher and saying, I don't know how to go to the bathroom by myself. By the end, I don't think I was the person I was before. I think I was made into something else. Made to join the others. The girl who had been forced to stand the rest of the day over the spot where she peed in the library. The kid who was made to wear a piece of pink string around his wrist as a reminder not to pee his pants. The boy who marched through the mall, past the food court and arcade, pushed along by his father, who had made a sign the boy was now wearing around his neck that read, I wet the bed. And how no one stopped it. No one stood between the boy and his shame. No one pulled out their car keys and stabbed the father in the eyes. They just looked away, and in the order of things, turned back to their own lives. Corsage. I wonder if you think about me. I'm so far away. I could be anybody you meet. I'm meat and eyeballs. I'm walking down a cobble street in a black suit. The sun looks like a corsage on prom night. The delicate white-green petals inside the plastic coffin, a pin sticking it. You seem so much like limousines glistening toward the high school, the girls spitting on bathroom mirrors, and the boys startled by their own hard-ons. Honey, I want to buy you a drink. I want to buy you all the drinks. It's you standing next to me when I get my blood drawn. I get so scared, but they can have all my blood if you hold my hand. I would bleed all over the place if you were there. Michael says I miss things too much, and that is not something a grown-up should do. He's right. These pants don't fit. When we were little kids, he and I slept one above the other in bunk beds and whispered goodnight in little, soft voices. This room feels like an old-timey doctor's bag that's lost its shit. One day I'll get to die fucking awesome and finally in your arms on prom night and happy, and just the smell of you would make it feel really good. Black lipstick. My little sister is sneaking her friends out the back door of a bar because the men in there won't stop touching them. And the people in the bar won't stop the men. And the men keep ordering sweet drinks they think the women will like, but they don't like them. All they want to do is leave and live. When I get out of the shower and look in the mirror, I say to myself, you should go to the gym. You should lose weight. Be more handsome. People who rape other people have bodies like mine. People who hate their wives and daughters. They hate them and go to the bar and drink too much and touch people who do not want to be touched. I don't know. I miss being young and going out in eyeliner and skirts. I miss wearing black lipstick. Fucking boys and fucking girls was the best. It felt like drinking ice-cold Coca-Cola on the roof of the world. From there, you were safe. You could smoke clove cigarettes with your weird friends. You could throw rocks at the men below, walking down the street with their brains in one hand and their hearts in another, a parade of terrible potential, while their mothers stand along the sidewalk clapping and cheering, waving baby blue handkerchiefs into the cold air. Fur. There was one basement, this one girl's father covered in cement, like frosting, at an angle, so that if you walked from one of the four walls toward the center of the room, you would be walking downhill toward a big drain, where the blood and the fur and sometimes the noses and teeth of the dogs made to fight there would be hosed down into the drain, and then wherever that led, the ocean or whatever. When she and I were 12, we stood in the middle. It smelled like dogs and iron, or like meat and mold. I put my finger inside her. She put her finger inside me, and we were both swallowed up in each other's tongues. And for the first time I can remember, love rose up into the palace of the testicles, the ovaries, like a temperature. And because her father was entering her room at night while she pretended to sleep, because he was killing her in that unbearable way where she would be dead, but also alive. She wanted me to cover every inch of her body, wherever his breath had fallen, wherever his hands had gone, every inch. And after me, my friends, and after them, their friends. Whatever it took to hose her father off, right down the drain of her, all those nights, all the hair and sweat, the lips and thighs, his nose and teeth. I rarely explain anything before I read a poem because I'm not very well educated, so there's rarely anything in my poem that needs explaining. But I will explain one thing in this poem, which has to do with skateboarding. Does anybody know what a no-comply 360 is? No? Okay. It's a trick with your skateboard if you're like going along, and then you take this foot off, and you kind of snap the back of it, and you leap up, and in 360 you land. It's a cool fucking trick when I was a kid. So that's like me explaining some Greek thing in my poems. It's like Greek is like that, it's like Bones Brigade, Talprota. This is my last poem. Thank you for listening. Big love. All weekend, my friend Levi has been trying to land a no-comply 360. He spends hours skating at the mall and in Chinatown, where he's been experimenting with pills he crushes up and then inhales. High school is out there somewhere waiting for us like a bully. All weekend, he's been talking me out of my sadness and telling me I'll be okay, that I'll fall in love again. You have to love beyond yourself, he says. You have to disappear into it. At Levi's house, we are picking up 2 cans of generic root beer and tightening the trucks on his skateboard. His mother is sitting on a stool in the middle of the living room, half naked, half covered in a dirty robe. It's summer, and the can of root beer feels like a lake in my hand. Walking toward the front door, Levi's mom is laughing. "What are you 2 faggots gonna do anyway?" she says. "You guys gonna fuck each other?" And then there's a weird silence. And then Levi reaches back into some part of himself that shouldn't exist yet and punches her in the face. He punches her right off the stool and onto the floor. Here is love. Here is the mother and son disappearing. Not vanishing exactly, not decomposing, but something faster, like fainting. The world all around you, and then nothing but pixelated light, static, like an old television set, the dark filling the screen, and then who knows what after that.